So hi guys, this is my, well, it was a Freeze Pulse build. Now it's or was a glacial cascade build, but now it's a Freeze Pulse build. So this is my Freeze Pulse Elementalist non-crit build. As you can see, I took out all of the area nodes to get rid of, or to use Freeze Pulse. I took them out in the Templar tree as well. We're still using the Green Dream. We grabbed a few more things over in the shadow, so Sniper, for example, to give us more projectile speed. We still have yet to get Mastermind of Discord, but once we do, it'll be a pretty big damage increase. Let's look at our gear. So now we're using the Perfect Form. I really like this chest. It's really cool. Like, the idea behind it is really cool, and it makes me pretty tanky compared to how I was before. I mean, right now I have 6,000 evasion with 35% chance to evade attacks and 30% chance to dodge spells, which is a huge deal. Also, I've switched out wands, so we're no longer using the other wand, the Breach wand. I still have it here, I think. Here it is. The Tullfall wand. We're no longer using this because it's just simply not as good as this wand. This one's not great, but it's better than, the Tullfall. I just came to the conclusion that the Tullfall, it would be good if I had a lot more frenzy charges, but because I'm only running 3 frenzy charges, it's just not worth it. Also, I get the frenzy charges from the Green Dream Jewel. I have I believe it's a 15 plus 8, or 5, so I have a 20% chance to generate a frenzy char on killed, which is kind of a big deal. I'm still using the Pandemonious amulet, which is again really cool. It allows me to blind chilled enemies, which combined with the evasion that I get from this is a really big boon to defense. And this also allows us to have a free Arctic armor. So we're also running Period of Ice, and it's sort of working like a small Grace aura, which is nice, because Grace is a 50% aura, whereas this is only a 35%. On single targets, we switch out our LMP for slower projectiles. And as you can see, it's a pretty big damage increase, though our Freeze Pulse doesn't go very far. Also, because we have such a low mana pool, I'm working towards Deep Thoughts, and then I'm going to come over here and grab this jewel socket. Okay, so let's run this map. I've got a armory map here, as you can see. It's nothing too menacing, but because I'm talking and playing at the same time, yeah. Oh, and before we go in, let's just talk about the sockets. So Controlled Destruction, Lesser, or LMP, which is switched with slower projectiles, Added Cold, and Hypothermia. So, and we've got about 19k unbuffed with no frenzy charges, and it goes down to 16k every 6 seconds. And with our slower projectiles, it goes up to 25 and I believe 29. With frenzy charges and with our flasks, I believe it goes up to like 35. Alright. So I also tried Frost Nova and Vortex. Self-cast Vortex is alright, but it's sort of a pain in the ass. And it didn't seem to really work that well when I compare it to Freeze Pulse. So as you can see here, I've got a decent amount of frenzy charges. That puts us up to, well, with Freeze Pulse up to 20k, or 28k. Let's see, there's nothing over here. And the reason why we dropped Glacial Cascade is mostly because the damage is really bad. And the damage on Glacial Cascade is really bad because of the physical component. So, for example, right now I'm doing like 18k or rather 20k with this particular build. But when I was running Glacial Cascade, while it does hit 2 or 3 times, it was only getting up to like 11k tooltip, and half of that damage was physical, so it was kind of worthless. It was sort of a really big problem. And as you can see, our single target really sucks, because we don't shotgun anymore, unfortunately. Thank you, patch 2.2, or 2.0 rather. But with slower projectiles, it's not really a problem. In fact, I'm actually considering just dropping LMP altogether for most things, because the area on just the normal freeze pulse isn't bad, though with a higher level slower projectiles, it's going to start to get a little painful, because our 20% freeze pulse won't actually go that far. So here's the boss. Let's where the hell is my slower projectiles? As you can see, I'm pretty tanky. I can just stand there and tank his hits, no problem. And he dies really fast once I throw out the frost bomb. So let's complete this map. I'm just going to continue with slower projectiles. Being so tanky, it's not such a big deal that I get in people's faces, though I suspect that once we get to the Guardians, if we can even do them, I'll probably want to run LMP for the trash mobs. The reason why I don't think this character will be able to do the Guardians is mainly because cold is basically useless against the Guardians, in the sense that you can't really freeze big bosses. Like, they're typically freeze immune, which is a huge problem for cold skills. That's why I think most cold skills are not really heavily used. Though chill is now a big deal because of the amulet we're using, and because of hypothermia. It's still not as big of a deal as using something like freeze. And also another big downside of freeze pulse is, of course, any little pebble that's in front of you will stop it. But that's how it's always been, so it's not that big of a deal. It just makes indoor maps like this a little bit harder to complete because of doorways and shit like that. I was able to take out Ziri pretty easily with this build. I think it will do fine against Uber, not Uber Ziri, but Uber Azara. The Uber lab should be pretty easy. And, you know, especially with the cast on damage taken Vortex and the ability to just blind Zoro, he really won't do much damage to me, especially with the evasion and the phase acro. So let's do this breach real quick. As you can see, one of the downsides of this map currently is that a lot of these, or it has a high percent to dodge status ailments, so I'm not chilling as many mobs as I normally would be. But I'm still pretty tanky. Well, that's pretty nice to pick up. I mean, it seems like I am blinding a lot of these mobs, so oops, I didn't mean to pick that one up. I am considering going down and getting, I'll keep that. What did I pick up? Oh, whatever, I don't really care. I am considering going down and getting the other projectile speed node over by Ranger. I think another thing that would really make this build stronger is potentially going crit. Now obviously we didn't go crit, but yeah, I think that overall the numbers would be higher if we did go crit. No, we didn't really clear this map very efficiently. Also, like I said before with the Tofa wand, if we had more charges, things would be a little bit better, especially frenzy charges. If I was running like 6 or 7 frenzy charges, this build would have a considerable amount of damage increase. And we will see. Maybe when I get to like 85, 86, I should be able to pick up at least one more before I finish this build. So yeah, and back on to Glacial Cascade and Vortex and Frost Nova. So Frost Nova was probably the most promising of the bunch. Vortex was decent too because it chills everything automatically. Anything that walks in it is like 100% chill chance, which is nice. So it makes everything blinded, and the damage over time component was something like 10k added damage. But compared to Frost Nova, it just wasn't as good. And Frost Nova it has a faster cast time, so you're able to get more Frost Novas off than Vortexes, especially if you're using something like Spell Echo. But one of the other problems was, since we switched to the perfect form, we were unable to get 4 blue sockets. As you can see, it's 197 dex for this particular chest. And I would like to switch out Added Cold if possible, but because we're using Freeze Pulse, it's not that big of a deal. And once we get our second jewel, it will actually be quite a lot of chaos damage, just simply from the Added Cold as well. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little guide, this little map run. I will update the forum with more about the Freeze Pulse character and change it from Glacial Cascade to Freeze Pulse. Alright, guys.